that we're going to have today with you guys, even though I'm very sure that the flyers were out there, you guys have seen it, but I will try to reiterate on that. So, first of all, my name is Ibrahim Rabiu. I am the community manager for 3MTT Taraba State, and today we are going to have our master class. And our speaker today is Ikechukwu Madu. Ikechukwu, we are very excited to have him today. He's an engineering lead at PiggyVest. It's a company that is revolutionizing and securing savings and investment in Nigeria. Plus, Ikechukwu has been one of the instrumental figures because he's a software engineer for over 8 years. And he have actually majored in building and supporting financial technology for almost most of his career. And currently, he works as the lead engineer for Pockets, a sister company of PiggyVest, just as I mentioned earlier. So I think, and today's session actually it's targeting, or let me say, its main focus for today is how we can, sorry, excuse me, build a thriving career in product and business analysis. So I would like to call on Ikechukwu, if he is available to kindly unmute himself and take over the stage. But meanwhile, we can use the chat section to introduce ourselves, where we're actually joining from. If you are a fellow, what cohort are you, the track you are, so that we create more engagement. Before the session ends, I'm going to share a form whereby you guys can be able to submit your feedbacks and the rest. So I will just say, sit tight and enjoy the moment. So Ikechukwu, over to you.
Uh, Hi, can you hear me? Hi, Ibrahim. Hi, everyone. Good evening. Please, can you hear me? I just want to confirm if everyone can hear me. I can see some people have their cameras on, so you can just wave. So I'm sure that everybody can.
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, can see us in the chat now. Yeah. All right. Hi. So good evening, everybody. First of all, I'd like to apologize for starting late. But it's great to be here. I received this invitation to speak to everyone here, distinguished people who are looking to build a career in product, and business analysis. And I think that's an interesting part of technology building that is not usually discussed a lot, because with tech, most of the time what people discuss is the engineering part, or writing code, doing a lot of that. But yeah, the product itself is what sells, right? The engineering is the system that powers the product, and the product is what sells. And it's very interesting because products take very different forms. I mean, every one of us here uses one product or the other. If you are like me, where you don't go to the bank most of the time, you use your phone or a web app to send money, to make your transactions. You're using a product that somebody has, sat down and thought of, and has, okay, I think someone's sharing their screen, which is interesting. All right, yeah, but that's fine. I guess we'll just move on, right? So like I was saying, yeah, we use products every day. There's Twitter. I'm sure that most of you on social media, you're either doing Twitter or Facebook, or for the other people, I don't know how to use Snapchat. I'm just going to put that out there, by the way. But yeah, I mean, if you do use Snapchat, that's another product that we use. So there are different products that we interact with, every day, from banking apps to social media to other things, games. There's a whole lot, right, that we use, and each product has its journey from an idea stage where it starts to the product fit, or what we call the product fit. And basically what a product fit is you have this idea, you've developed it to a particular point, and then you now have a market that appreciates this idea or appreciates what you're doing with this idea. and they buy into your idea, and they want to see the product grow, and they make use of it, every time, right? And basically, that's what a product life cycle is. That's what the product journey is, right? And there are many interesting steps in how a product is taken from just an idea to the journey to get it to be a market fit, right? Sometimes an idea starts out one way, and then it takes a different turn, or it takes a different journey, and it becomes something else along the way, and then the final product is very different from where the idea started. I mean, typical example, right, is PiggyVest. I don't know how many people use PiggyVest here, right? But the idea about PiggyVest, when it started, was to build a financial tool that helped everyday people save, right, or made savings and investments really interesting. And in the 9 years that PiggyVest has been around, right, that product, even though it now has a market that it fits into, it has a specific need that it fits into, right, has changed over the course of time. PiggyVest has added new things. We've added, different types of saving methods, and all of that. And so the product keeps evolving. There's no product that I would say there's no product that serves, right, that does not evolve over the course of time. So today, in just a few minutes, I can see someone's hand raised. I guess there'll be question and answers later. But also, I think if you sorry, Ibrahim, I don't know, there's sort of like some background noise coming from someone.
Okay, sorry, please. There's going to be question and answer session.
Sorry, please. Can you mute everybody? Can you mute everybody so that at least we can get a good communication?
Okay, all right. I think that's what I will do. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm just going to hold on until I think someone's mic is still unmuted, and then there's a lot of background noise from there.
Yes, we're muting.
All right, I think we have good audio now. There's still some noise from some people, but I guess we can start. Okay. So quickly, I'm just going to give a brief talk on okay, please, I need to share my screen, Ibrahim. I don't know if you can still hear me. Hi, Ibrahim, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I'm having a little internet issue, but then you can continue. I'll unmute everybody. I'll mute everybody.
Yeah, I need to share my screen so that I can run through my presentation, if you don't mind.
Okay. All right, please go ahead.
I still can't share my screen, sorry.
Can you share your screen now?
So okay, I'm going to try. Yeah, no, it's still not working. I think someone is sharing their screen. Yeah, and then I yeah.
Oh, really?
Yes, I think so. Well, but the error is the host is not allowing multiple presenters sharing or this meeting.
Okay, how about now? Can you try it? Let's see.
Still the same thing. Yeah. Assembly.
Okay, I think okay, can you give it a try? Let's see if it's
Okay.
going to work.
All right. Give me a second. Yeah, now I can. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Let's make this a slideshow.
Okay, before our host share his screen, um, I can see you guys are engaging yourself on the chat session, which is commendable. So, as I mentioned earlier, we're going to share the a form to you guys so that it's just like a Q&A. During our Q&A, I'm going to share the form so that you guys can be able to give us feedbacks and regarding the feedbacks regarding the webinars that we've been doing and specifically for the one we are actually doing today. So I think before, okay, yeah, Ikechukwu screen is shared already. So let's continue. You can take over, Ikechukwu.
All right. Yeah, okay. So I'm just going to go quickly through it so that we can move forward because of time. So I mean, the very first thing is just let's talk about, the foundations of a successful career in product management, right? Or in product or business analysis, right? One of the first things that you need to know or have is analytical thinking, right? So I have here listed analytical thinking, communication, and problem solving. For every product, like I said, it starts out as a journey, right? Where you're trying to solve a problem, right? So let's take, for instance, right, a couple of years ago, in the early 2000s, right, the normal way for you to send money was that you go to a bank, right? You would fill out a form and write out some details, right? And over the course of maybe say 2 days to a week, right, the money will be sent to the other bank where you wanted to receive the money, right? And it was a problem because if you were either making a withdrawal or you were making a deposit, right, you had to either go to the branch where the account existed, right, to make that withdrawal or to make that deposit, or you had to, and also actually not even or, also you'd have to, stand in really long queues, right, to be able to withdraw money, right, from your account. It also meant that, let's say, for instance, you wanted to withdraw 1 million naira, right? You would have to get that money in cash, right? And you take the physical cash anywhere where you're going. And that led to a lot of problems, right? I mean, security issues, people tracking people, money that will be missing, and all of these things, right? And that was the way banking was done, right? In the early, I would say late 90s, early 2000s in Nigeria. And then somebody came up with an idea and said, hey, why don't we make this, a bit easier for customers? Why don't we try to do this electronically, right? We have computers. Is it possible for us to send money from one computer to another, right? And they started thinking about the problem. Okay, how do we want to communicate with each bank? What are the things that we need to do? What security measures do we need to put in place? And all of these things, right? And that gave birth to the rise of what we know as NIBSS today, right? The Nigerian Interbank Service, right? Which helps us transfer money from one bank to another. So when you do your transfers from OPay to MoneyPoint, from MoneyPoint to Kuda, or from UBA to GT Bank, and all of these things, right? That's what gave rise to the system that helps you do those transfers from one bank to another, right? And it was a problem, right? And solving that problem is not just saying, oh, we have two computers, we want to make them talk to each other, and this and that, right? It's thinking about the problem. There are many layers to this problem, right? How do we ensure, right, that we're solving the problem, but we're also solving the other problems that come as a result of the solutions that we're providing, right? The other part of that is communication, right? So the people who were building these solutions for our transfers, right? And I'm sure that everybody here does at least one transfer a day from your bank, right? So the people who were solving this problem, they were not just solving the problem in a separate space away from the banking system, right? They were speaking to bankers, they were speaking to different banks at that time to say, hey, we have this idea, we want to make it work. How does it work on your own end, right? How does banking work on your own end? How do we help integrate this system with your own system, right? To ensure that this solution that we want to provide is not only for one person, but it serves everybody, right? And this was more than 25 years ago, right? And today we have a solution that works, right? We have a product, right, called instant transfers, where even from your phone, you can dial a particular code, or, if you're like me, you use the banking app and you send money, and in a few seconds, right, the money is sent from one point to another, right? And it's done. It's like magic. But there's a lot of thinking, right? There's a lot of analytical thinking. There's a lot of communication between the people who were providing this solution, right, and the people who were going to make use of this solution, right? And there were all those discussions within that time, right, that allowed people to come together to solve this particular problem. And like I said earlier, right, the product is still developing today. So we've solved the problem of being able to send money from point A to point B, right? The next thing is, do we have solutions that we can add on top of this solution for security, right? So that if, for instance, you send money by mistake, or somebody gains access to your banking app, right, they cannot perform certain transactions until you give consent, right? Or something is done somewhere in your name, and they prove that it is you that did this transaction, right? Some of my examples will most likely be financial examples because that's where my experience is from. But I think it's something that we can all relate to, because I'm assuming that at least all of us here have used one banking app or the other, right? So there's that. The other part is mentioning, tools, product tools. There's so many product tools. I listed a couple of them here, right? I think I listed them here. There's Jira, which we use for product coordination. So, for instance, when your product's lifecycle has started and you're coordinating between teams, obviously, when you're building a product, right, you're going to involve so many teams. There's design, there is engineering, obviously, there is the business aspect, right? There's the marketing aspect, and all these things, they come together to build a product. A product is not built by one person; it's built by a team of people. And then there's the public. The public are the people who are going to use this product, from time to time. I'm sure if you're on social media, on Twitter, you've probably seen sometimes where people complain about some banks, or maybe their transfer is not going, or I did something, they haven't reversed it, things like that, right? Yeah. So all these people, customer success, the business, marketing people, operations, design, engineering, they all come together, and you have to develop workflows that allow you to sync the different arms of the product that you're building together, right, to come up with a particular product. Then there's Tableau. Tableau is basically used for data analysis, where you can collect metrics. So when your product has launched, right, you're seeing users interact with your product, you're seeing users perform certain actions. You need to be able to retrieve that data, right, as they're performing the action so that you can track your metrics. How fast are you growing? How well are you growing? What are the places where people drop off when they want to use your product? So for instance, I remember that there was a time where a particular bank had issues with people opening accounts from their mobile app, right? And it was a big deal, right? And the only way they were able to make that improvement was because they were able to see the different drop-off points on their products, right? And so those are some of the tools. Figma, I'm sure Figma it's a very popular tool. We all know Figma here is used for designing screens, designing workflows, right? That we can use for our applications, right? So whether it's a web app or a mobile app, we use Figma for that, right? And so the next point is understanding the different product building methods, right? There's agile methodology. I'm sure all of us are very used to the agile methodology here, right? Where we take a big task and we break it down into different sprints, right? And then each sprint is a list of tasks that we want to complete, and then we can measure that progress over time, right? And then, there are other different methodologies that we use for building our products. There's Scrum, and then there's the waterfall method. I'm not going to go over that because of my time here, but I'm sure that these are the things that we're at least slightly familiar with, right? Sorry, just a second. The next thing I'm going to talk about is the power of networking. As a product manager or as a business analyst, right? One of the things that you need to do to help grow your career is being able to network with other people, right? And the reason why I say this is because as you start out your journey, there are people who have gone ahead of you. There's nobody who's starting out a new thing completely, right? There are other people who have experimented in different ways. They've tried different things, right? That you might just be wanting to try, right? And you can feed off their experience. You can feed off, the knowledge that they have gained from the things that they have done. One example I will give is in engineering, because I'm an engineer, right? In engineering, we have different platforms like Stack Overflow. There are different communities on Twitter, on Discord, on Telegram, right? Where we have certain discussions on different things that people have been facing or different issues that people are facing with a particular programming language or some type of implementation, right? And that helps to build the knowledge base that other people feed off from. So it's important that we engage ourselves, or we try to engage people who have a wealth of experience. Platforms like LinkedIn, there are also meetups. This is a meetup, right? Even though it's virtual because I'm not in front of you, right?
Sure.
And we're sharing knowledge, we're gaining experience, right? From my own experience, from my little experience, right? But that's what it is, right? We're networking, and I'm sure there's going to be a Q&A session after, right? But we're building experience as it is, right? And showing you, or we're showing ourselves how we should build the product, what are the things that we need to consider, the type of teams that we're working with, right, when we build our products, right, and what our product journey is going to be like, right? If you have started your product management journey and you work in a company, it's always great to leverage off your professionals, maybe like your senior product manager, and people or other product people who are involved, right, in your office, on your workspace, right? I have found Twitter to be a great tool for networking, right? I'll say I'm not necessarily that much of a LinkedIn person, but Twitter is a great tool, right? Because it gives you, I personally would say that it gives you a more, interactive feel, a more personal touch, right? When you're speaking with people, and the interactions are a bit, more fast-paced, right? So, get out there, introduce yourself, speak with people, right? It's very important for you to be able to speak with people because that will help you grow your level of experience. It will also help you find the right, network paths, right? That would allow you to, grow your career, very quickly and grow your career in the right way, right? The other points I have here are, participating in webinars. I think that's one we're doing currently. Sorry, just give me a second. And then, involve yourself in discussions, right, in via blogs. So let's talk about designing a product, right? What are some of the things that we need to understand when we want to design a product? The first thing here we have is focus on user needs and pain points. So like I said, right, in the late 90s and early 2000s, one of the biggest problems we had was, being able to send money across the nation. In fact, it was so bad that you could not transfer, if you were living in Lagos, right, you could not send money to somebody in Ibadan, right? And Lagos and Ibadan are very close, by distance, but you could not do that. Another thing that we technically don't necessarily think of is the way we send text messages these days, right? So, I mean, you want to talk to your friend, maybe your friend is in the UK, is in Europe, or is in America. You pick up your phone, you open WhatsApp, and you just type a message and hit send, right? And the message sends, and the person on the other side of the globe is responding in real time, right? If you roll back 30 years ago, that was not possible, right? Yeah. If you roll back, a couple of years ago, we did not have anything like WhatsApp, right? And it was a pain to send. I mean, if you watch some old movies, right, to send a message to somebody, you have to write a letter, and then they take that letter to a ship, and the ship will take 3 months to get the other side of the globe. I mean, and this is, I'm saying 3 months because you're probably sending the letter to somebody in England. So that's like London, all those places in Europe, right? And it takes 3 months for the letter to get there. And then when the person reads it, the letter is already 3 months old. And then they have to write you a response, and it takes another 3 months for you to get the response. So imagine saying hi and hello, right? It will take you 6 months on the average for you to be able to do hi and hello before you start talking about the thing that you want to talk about, right? And now we have instant messaging, right? And instant messaging says, hey, I want to talk to somebody in, somebody give me a very distant place, China, Hong Kong. You type a message and I hit send, and the message goes almost instantly, and the person gets it almost instantly halfway across the world, right? What was the pain point of the people at that point in time? The pain point of the people at that point in time was the speed, right, of the messages, right? The speed of delivery of the messages, right? And people wanted a way where they could, send a message, right? And they were able to get response and get instant responses, right? Or receive response almost immediately, right? And while that solution is very layered because there were a lot of things that needed to be invented, right, before we got to instant messaging, right? Somebody finally took up the pain points of instant messaging and developed a product that we have as WhatsApp today, right? And there are many other instant messaging platforms that have been developed, right? But I mean, I think we can all agree that nobody has done it as good as WhatsApp has done it, right? WhatsApp has brought the world a lot closer than, where we were, I would say, 20 years ago, right? So focus on the user's needs and pain points. We all have great ideas, right? But ideas are in silos, they are in containers, right? It is until we share those ideas with the people who have actual problems and see where their problems are coming from that we can develop proper products. And that brings me to my next point, conducting usability tests and research, right? So, I mean, we have a lot of banking apps in the country, right? There are a lot of, every bank right now has its own application, right? But I think a lot of people here will agree that OPay is probably the best, right? And what did OPay focus on? OPay focused on two things, right? Being able to make transfers done very quickly, right? And also provide users with needful information, right, to do their transfers. Yes, I see your hand up, but please, there'll be time for question and answers. So please just hold on until the question and answer session, and then we'll get to you, right? Usability tests and user research, right? Again, from the first point, what are the pain points of the users, right? Now, how well does the idea that we have, right, fits into the solution that we're going to develop for this user's pain points, right? So what we're speaking to users, we're maybe doing like, question and answers or questionnaires to get feedback from the users, right? And that's, how we shape our product. Because at the point in time where you have, your product idea, or when you're working on a new idea, right, you've not necessarily interacted with users to be able to get what the users actually want, right? And if you develop a product outside of what the users want, yes, your product will launch, but so one of two things would happen. It will take you a longer time for you to get a market fit, which is where everybody wants to get to, right? Or your product might not be successful at all, right? So it's very important for us to conduct user research, right? Where we're collecting information from the users, we're getting feedback from the users. We say, oh, okay, we designed this thing this way. What do people think? How do people, interact with this? Do you think we can make it better? What things would you like to see, right? And even with PDVest where I work, right, we do that every single time. We conduct user research because we're always trying to build solutions that are customer facing, right? That are customer oriented. So we put the customer first. So yeah, last 2 points here, are pretty self-explanatory. I'm trying to move fast because of the time that we have, right? So collaborate closely with designers and developers so that the people who are designing your product and the engineers who are building your products, right? They help take your product from just an idea to reality, right? And then user experience, basically. When you have a product and the user opens your product and user wants to interact with your product, right? How easy is it for them to perform the functions that you want them to perform, right? Again, for instance, if you open a banking app, right? Can you transfer money easily? Can you see your notifications easily, your transaction history? These are some of the things that if you're building the banking app, right, people would want to see almost immediately, right? They want to have easy access to that information, right? So there's that. So now we'll talk about market fit, right? So like I said earlier, market fit basically describes when a product is accepted by the public, right? And the public likes that product, right? It means that you found a solution to a problem that exists in the public space, right? So for market fit, right, and strategic thinking, right, one of the first things that you need to do is conduct research. And at this point, I'd like to say that research never stops, right? So at the point where you have launched your product into the market or you found the market fit, you don't stop doing research at that point, right? Research is always evolving. You must always continue to research what are the new things, what are new technologies that people are using, what are are there new things that we need to be aware of? Can we measure how well our product is doing? What metrics are we collecting from our users? Things like that, right? Those are the things that are important for you to have in terms of when you're doing your research, right? Another point that you can take is using MVP. So MVP here stands for minimum viable product, right? It's basically a smaller version of your product or your application, right? That you want to release to a particular section of the public, right? So that they can give you feedback on how well it performs, right? So there's that. I'm going to move on quickly. Yes. So I mean, my final tip or advice to anybody who's into
Okay.
Please confirm if you can still hear me.
Yeah, please go ahead. You just tripped for a few
Right.
seconds.
Oh, all right. My bad. Yeah. So my final advice to everybody here is, first of all, network, right? Be sure to build proper networks, whether you're on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, all the places where you can meet product managers, right? It's important for you to network with those people. Another thing is stay proactive with learning. YouTube is a great resource for learning, right? I mean, you can literally just go on YouTube and say, oh, how to become a product manager or how to become a business analyst, right? And there are tons of videos, or tons of tutorials that will help you, develop your skill set, even if you're starting from scratch, right? And those things will help you, grow until you're able to take off on your own. So it's like learning how to ride a bicycle, right? You start off small, and then you you continue to build until you become a master at riding a bicycle, right? So yes, I think without further ado, that's my small presentation. Thank you very much for having me. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Ikechukwu. I am not a product manager, but at least after listening to you, I actually gain a lot. So I would like to check the chat section to see the questions that we have. I can see a question from Nelson Olebune. Sorry if I do not pronounce that. He said his question is, if someone wants to develop a product like an electric cars and trucks to limit the consumption of fossil fuels, how can he get started? Because I'm very sure he heard you said you're an engineer. So
Okay, that's an interesting. So that's a really interesting question.
yes.
So I would answer your question in two parts, Nelson. The first part is some type of products cannot necessarily take off, right? If there's no platform for them to build on. I think that electric cars fall into this category. And the reason why I say that is because for us to think of electric cars, we have to think of, there are a lot of things involved. So one is if we have electric cars, they need to be charged, right? Not everybody will have the ability to charge them at home, right? So you talked about electric cars and trucks, right? So a truck is probably doing long distance, so you need to charge at some charging station, right? So we have to think of how these electric cars can be charged on the road, right? So like for instance, you have filling stations on the road. Electric cars will have to have their own charging stations on the road, right? That's one. Two is, are we producing enough electricity for us to charge electric cars, right? We have to have a sustainable electric network, right? That allows us to charge our cars from point A to point B, or charge our cars at home. And all of these things, right? So there's a lot of work that has to come in, right, before an electric car is made. There's the manufacturing part where we talk about the batteries, what type of batteries we're going to use. I think this is very akin to solar panels and inverters, right? I remember that again, if I think back, some 25 years ago, solar panels were available in Nigeria, but they cost quite a lot, right? I'm talking about in the multi-millions for you to get one solar panel. Right now, it's a lot cheaper, even though it's still a bit expensive, for you to get a lithium-powered battery or a solar panel. But what has been done is that the government has offered initiatives for people to take up solar panel production in Nigeria, and all of these things, bringing solar panels, bringing batteries, bringing that technology, right? And then people are building around these platforms that the government has created, right? And they're building products that we can now make use of, right, as the final consumer. So if you're looking at electric cars, there are some platforms, some of them involve government interventions that have not yet been built, right? That will need to take place before we can fully benefit from things like electric cars and trucks. I hope that helps one way or another. Yeah.
Okay. I think you've done justice to that question. Okay. I can see another question from the chat box. He said as a Yamife, sorry. He said as a newbie in product management, what's the best route to getting involved in hand-on or real-life products?
Okay, so the best way to getting involved in hands-on or real-life products, there are a lot of internships, right? That are around. I think one of the first things that you can do is look around for internships, right? Product internships around. I know that if you try to get involved in the fintech space, there are a lot of people who are currently looking for product managers, right? Or taking internships. You can start from there and then start to build your career upwards till you get to the point where you're able to handle the product completely. I think what an internship will let you do is allow you to have insights into how products are changed from one stage to another, how products, develop over time. If your product is taking a new turn, and things like that, right? As an intern, you'll be able to see these decisions made, and spread over time. You'll also be able to work on internal products, right? So how things are managed, and internal processes are managed. I think, we Piggytech, one of the first things that we do for our interns is our products interns allow them to manage, internal tooling for, outside products. But the internships are the way to go. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I think the next question we have is Chioma says you should mention other ways that you can reach consumers easily without marketers, because most marketers, due to greed and high increase of price for self-gain, makes it hard for product to reach consumers. She says she wants you to suggest other ways.
All right, that's a tough question, Choma. That's a tough question. I mean, you can't do your own marketing, right? I've seen people who have started out with small products. Actually, I know someone, not personally, but I do know of somebody on Twitter who he's the only person in his company, right? And he does his own marketing, he does everything, and he's built products that are used worldwide, right? So you can be your own marketer, right? I think one of the reasons why people decide to, have marketers do, their marketing for them is because these people are experienced, they have insights into how the market works. It also helps to fast track, your products in terms of like market acceptance, right? So these are not skills that you develop overnight, right? These are skills that you build based on experience, and it takes time for you to build these skills, right? You can do your own marketing, right? However, I would say maybe speak to a couple of marketers. Not all of them are greedy, I can assure you of that. So there'll be some that's that'll be able to help you get your products. Yeah.
Okay, that's wonderful. And it's like today, the ladies are the ones giving us back to back. Ijoma says, greetings everybody. What makes product management necessary? Since we have designers and developers producing those products. So how is a product manager different from a developer or a designer?
Right. So products need to be managed, and I'll tell you why. The product manager is the bridge between the business and the behind the scenes, right? I'm an engineer, and I'll tell you from the heart that engineers have a way of how they think about products, right? So I'll give you a funny example. If I were to build a banking app for me alone, I won't build it with any user interface. I'll build it to be just a text box where I type what I want and then the system does the thing for me, right? But if I were to share that with everybody on this channel, some people would probably maybe come to my house. I don't know, they would be raining from me on Twitter, and all of those things. And that's just because not everybody, right, would appreciate that type of product that I built for myself, right? So product managers interface with the consumer end, right? And they take the feedback from the consumers and say, okay, here's the product that we're building. Here's what the customers of this product are saying about this product. Now, engineering and design, how do we bend our product to fit into the things or to present something better, right? That allow the customers to do what they want on our platform, right? Not all engineers can think that way. Not all designers can think that way, right? So a product manager helps to manage the product lifecycle. He's looking at everything that's involved in that product, from engineering to design to marketing to the business operations. All of it comes together to form the product. So, like for instance, Piggyvest is not just the app that you use on your phone. If you do use Piggyvest, right? Piggyvest has a lot of things that are involved in making Piggyvest what it is. There's the customer success that you call when you have a problem in Piggyvest. There's the engineering part that builds Piggyvest. There's the design. There's the business operations. There's a lot of stuff that comes together to form the application that you call Piggyvest, right? And there's a product manager that manages that product. Sometimes a product is large enough where you have 2, 3, 4 product managers managing the product at the same time, right? So that's why those people are necessary. Thank you.
Okay, awesome. Thank you for that. Kenechukwu Okeke have question. I am looking into bridging the gap between farmers and consumers, and also for easy exportation by developing an app. How do you think I can manage this project up from startup to IPO?
Okay. That's an interesting question.
Yeah.
That's an interesting question. I'm not exactly sure how you want to bridge directly between farmers and consumers, right? I think what you'd be looking for is a wholesale distribution channel, right? Where you're speaking with people like say for instance, ShopRite or Market Square, right? I'm thinking in that aspect because farmers can't exactly deal with the end consumers, right? Say, for
Sure.
instance, let's take for instance corn. Corn has quite a lot of applications. There's sweet corn, there's corn flour, there's the
Mm,
corn itself, right? That is roasted. There are a lot of things that we can do with corn. There's corn starch, right? All these things I've mentioned are end products that will be bought by an end consumer, right? The
sure.
farmer
Sure.
is not going to turn this corn that he plants on the field, right, into all these products, right? So if you're thinking of building something that connects farmers to consumers, I think what you've been looking more for is a wholesale distribution channel that distributes the corn that the farmers, plant and harvest to these wholesale people who build out the different products that consumers use. I think, yeah, that would be the best approach to building that type of product. I don't know if that helps answer your question. Thank you.
Okay. So another question from Al Qasim says, he said, my question is when referring to product that involves fashion, where one can be aided by pinpoints for easy recognition, but how would one achieve easy physical disbursement of product as a startup?
Okay, so this is a distribution problem.
Yes.
I mean, there are different ways to go around this problem, right? I think one of the first things if you're like into fashion, right, is I would say, starting small, right, with your distribution channel, right, and keeping that steady. There are different, what they call them now, delivery networks, right, that you can use to send out your products, right? It's a bit I would say I know that it's a bit tough, especially like in Nigeria, where dispatch people can either mess up orders or take a long time to deliver orders. But that's usually how it starts, right? So you start from there. And then, by the time you build your product to a certain level, then you can become your own distribution channel, right?
Sure.
Yeah, I think that helps. I'm not sure if that helps answer your question, right? There's a lot more that can happen in that space, but I don't know if I want to go into
Details.
those details. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I think the next question you have here is from Zaid Aliyu. He said, how do we validate product ideas before launching?
So how do we validate product ideas before launching? I mean, if you have an idea, right, start small. You don't need to tell the entire world what your idea is, right? I mean, obviously, you have friends that you can share your idea with, right? Or maybe you have some people who are, more experienced. You can, share your idea with them. You don't even need to tell them all the details. That's one thing I would like to say at this point, right? You don't need to share what your entire product idea is. Just tell them, hey, I have an idea. I want to try to do this, right? If they're very keen on helping you, some of them will ask questions, right? So you want to say, oh, I want to build for instance, I don't know. Sorry, I'm a finance person, so I'll give you a finance example. I want to build, a new, finance application where you send your money, there's no network failure and all of those things, right? And I'll say, okay, how do you want to do that, right? You want to be able to send to all the banks? Okay, what's your plan? Do you want to speak to all the banks? Do you want a channel where you're going to speak to all the banks? There's a lot of stuff that you start to talk about, right? What you would see from those discussions is that your idea where you start off from will not be the same idea that you have when you even build out your MVP, right? And it will not be the same idea that finally launches and the product. Because as you keep collecting feedback from different levels of people, your opinions, even about your own product, will change, right? And they will keep evolving over time until you have something that is consistent enough that fits, with the market, right? And you're able to build that out, right? For instance, there are many people who have built out, fintech apps in this country. A lot of them have died over the years. Not all of them successful. The ones that were successful are the ones that took in user feedback and then they were able to evolve over time to continue to meet the needs of the users. So yeah, I think that's what I'll share.
Okay, thank you for that. I think Zaid have actually, take note of that. Another question was, is what are the common, is it mistake product
I
managers
think it's
should avoid?
mistakes.
Yes.
Okay, what are the common mistakes that product managers should avoid? So I'll give one common mistake. I think one common mistake is what I would term resting on your laurels, right? So let's say, for instance, you have a product and that product has been launched to market, and everybody appreciates your product. Yay, this product does really great. Everybody's praising it, right? That's good, but that does not mean that the product life cycle ends there, right?
Sure.
Everybody's praising your product now doesn't mean that people can't turn. Customers are very interesting. I mean, we all have, and I assume that we all have banking accounts here, right? And even with OPay, right? At one point or the other, OPay might have disappointed you, and you have been very upset that day. You said, "This OPay, terrible people. They did not do this, they didn't do that, or whatever bank." I don't want to mention, any other bank here, and all of those things, right? So the people who work behind the scenes with these, applications, they're not resting, right? Because they see that every day people use these applications one way or the other. They have problems with these applications, and they're always trying to develop it to say, okay, what can we do better? How can we be better? How can we get better, right? To improve this product, to make it something that everybody wants to use, right? So one mistake that product managers should avoid is not saying, oh, we built our product, it has launched, everybody's fine with it. That's the end of the story, right? You always have to keep improving. You always have to keep learning new methods. And this is not just for the product alone. You have to remember, you're working with designers, you're working with engineers, you're working with business people, right? You always have to develop different methods for how you want to work with these people. How can you improve your relationship with engineers? How can you improve your relationship with designers? How can you get designers and engineers, right? I mean, there's this thing in tech that designers and engineers don't necessarily like each other, right? How do you get them to have a sync, right, that focuses on the main goal of the business, of the product, right? Because even internally, right, everybody has their own opinion on what a product should look like, how a product should be. Marketing has their own idea of what they wants the product to be. You have your own idea. Engineering has its own idea. Design has its own idea. And so bringing all these people together to focus on a single goal is one of the jobs that you have to do as a product manager. So yeah, that's what I'm sharing about.
Okay, thank you very much for that. I think we've exhausted all our questions here. But then the only thing I think I need to respond to, it's the same Zaid actually asked a question. Okay, let me try and respond. That one is directly to the True MTT team. Okay, the question that he has is how can he, you are enrolled in a program that you are not actually, you enroll in DevOps and you prefer to be in product management. So what our advice is, right now we've already closed the registration, but I think you need to send an email to support if there is anything. Maybe if you want to change your course, if the room is still open, it can be handled. So I think that's the only question on our timeline today. Before we close for today, I would like to appreciate Ikechukwu Madu for joining us this evening and for sharing so much knowledge with us. I think me, myself personally, it's just an eye opener for me. Even though I've been seeing product managers, trying to building products out there, I've actually learned one or two things directly from a product manager, and I think this is one of the things that I would say that most of our fellows today they've seen what they're supposed to engage in, and they've heard from you all the things that is supposed to motivate them to kickstart their career in product management. So before we close today, I would like to, you should give us a word of encouragement or advice, or let me say, closing remarks, for our fellows that are venturing into product management, because I've seen a lot of questions regarding how they can start, how they can market their products and the rest. So I would like to give the floor back to you, Mr. Ikechukwu, so that you can do justice to that. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Final words, I would say is just keep being curious, keep learning, keep interacting. I think that's one of the most important things. Just please, just be sure to keep interacting on every platform we have available to you, right? Look out for product managers, look out for people involved in the spaces that you're interested in. You'll be surprised to see how many people are interested in the same things that you're interested in. I liked the electric car question because that's something that I'm also interested in, right? And there are a couple of people who are interested in that, right? I've heard the news that electric cars will soon become available in Nigeria. There are plans to bring them in. So yeah, there will probably be an electric car space one way or the other, right? So please just keep being interested and keep trying to learn. And sky is your starting point. Thank you.
Okay, last but not the least, I would say that I'm very sure there are some of the fellows on this call that they may be interested to reach out to you, maybe through your LinkedIn or maybe through your Twitter. They would like to connect because during your presentation, you've made mention of, having mentors, attending events, meetups, so that will boost their, level of curiosity to learn more and connect. So I don't know if, fellows, how can they connect with you? Maybe through your LinkedIn or through your Twitter, so that at least if there's any question or there's any pain point that they need to reach out to you, they can do that. Okay. Okay, everybody, you can see there is a Twitter handle there. You can all follow our engineer today, Ikechukwu. And oh, you're muted. Okay. Okay, you can unmute. You can unmute.
Oh, right. Yeah, sorry. I was mentioned earlier. So you can reach out to me on Twitter. I dropped my Twitter handle in the chat. Yeah, so everybody can reach out to me from there.
Thank you very much. Ijoma, you asked a question that wasn't answered. Sorry if that is an oversight, but because of the time constraint that we have, I think you are a fellow, so definitely you can be able to catch up. And the WhatsApp groups are there for your communities. You can ask questions there. There are a lot of tutors there and facilitators that can be able to support you. So thank you very much, Mr. Ikechukwu. Thank you all for joining. You go away. That's why you didn't have the question, because I'm sure I read all the questions and he answered all the questions. So next time if you ask question, please try and stay on the call so that you can hear your answer. So thank you very much, Mr. Ikechukwu. Thank you everyone for joining.
Thank you very much. Thank you everyone.
Thank you. See you guys.
Bye-bye.
Hello, good evening.
Wani